Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I hope you're having a great day on this rainy day across the entire state of Mississippi as we continue to feel the effects from the storm that's traveling right up the spine of Mississippi. So we've got rain and people that have been affected across the state of Mississippi. And if you have been affected, know that we're good at this in the aftermath. Mississippians help Mississippians. I talk about it on the show all the time. We've learned it from floods in the Mississippi Delta, from hurricanes in coastal Mississippi, storms like this one that travel the entire state of Mississippi. People are impacted in different ways, and we're lucky that we have a terrific nonprofit organization, or a cadre of nonprofit organizations across the state of Mississippi, foundations and other funds that are designed to help people. I often say on the show that one of the things that makes Mississippi so resilient is not only are we willing to help our neighbors, but that we, through our own experience, have come to really appreciate that we are really resilient when we work together. And resilience essentially means the ability to bounce back. It might be the ability of a county or a state or a city or a community to bounce back. It could be an individual that gets flooded or impacted in some other way, the ability for them to bounce back. But until everyone bounces back, we're not really complete in terms of our recovery effort. And so one of the things I often refer to is the fact that we have efforts that emerge that create an opportunity for us to fill gaps. We can't have enough money being gathered to help people recover. We can never have that. We saw it after Hurricane Katrina as a volunteer army came from all over the nation to help us. So many needs and so many ways to help. And we've gotten good at that in this state. One of the reasons why I'm really looking forward to this show today, we're going to be joined shortly by Steve Davenport, who's the founder and chairman of SuperTalk Mississippi Media, and Scott Waller, the president and CEO of the Mississippi Economic Council. I wanted to invite them here today so that, in fact, the timing of it relative to the storm is perfect. But you may have seen the headline. The headline said Mississippi Major Disaster Relief Fund established by Mississippi Economic Council and SuperTalk Mississippi Media. I'll read the first paragraph to you. The Mississippi Economic Council and SuperTalk Mississippi Media announced the establishment of the Mississippi Major Disaster Relief Fund to support Mississippians impacted by major disasters. The initiative's goal is to provide grants to help address needs that continue to exist long after initial emergency assistance has been provided. Like I said, I mean, we're always going to find that there are gaps that need to be filled. And until we all recover, you know what? None of us have recovered. And I think this fund's going to be extraordinarily well received. And so without any further ado, let me invite my friends, Steve Davenport from SuperTalk Mississippi Media and Scott Waller from Mississippi Economic Council to the Ricky Matthews Show. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Doing very well.
Hey, so look, before we get to the fund specifically, I think it would be a good idea to remind people, if they've not heard us talk before. Steve, first of all, as it relates to SuperTalk Mississippi Media, I brag about the company all the time, the great news effort, the 25 radio stations, the nearly 50 radio stations that are part of the SuperTalk News Network, what we're doing on the sports side, the various programming that we have, and then, of course, the various genre of music platforms that we have across the state of Mississippi. It's a true multimedia company, and I'm really privileged to be a part of the company, Steve. But what would you say about SuperTalk if you were telling someone about the company and why you're proud to be the owner and founder of this company?
Well, Ricky, I think what we realized here when we started this company, basically we started as a news network and grew into radio stations and then a news network and did collegiate sports for 38 years. We did all the universities in Mississippi at one time. But when people say they believe that radio is a local service, we really believe in that. And we have people in about over 12, 13 markets. We reach every county in Mississippi. And with the growth of digital, we have a complete digital platform that we put out every day. We have all our shows are videoed and on C Spire TV and Roku and any source you get. I just found a new way this weekend where to find it. Didn't know how to get there, but that you just go to streaming and just put in SuperTalk Mississippi and it pops up. And And our goal is, to serve the people of Mississippi. I mean, we're in it, like anybody else, we're in it for finances. We got to make money. We got to pay. I mean, we've got over 130 employees, and I mean, we've got a very large payroll. And I'm glad that we started this way back when. And we've been doing this over 40 years. And I've had so many people tell me how unique it is. And I mean, and it's unique and works in Mississippi because Mississippi is small towns. I mean, I know we all like to say the coast is a big market, Jackson's a big market, but it really, it's not St. Louis and Cincinnati and New York, and it's hard to do it in states like that. I mean, but Mississippi, being such a small town, and what our goal was to bring the coast together with Northeast Mississippi, because you'd be shocked how many people from the coast have never been to Boonville, Mississippi. You'd be shocked how many people in Boonville. Matter of fact, one of our producers had never gone to the coast till he went to work for us. When he was 40 years old. Now, how do you do that? And so I think what we try to do on our talk shows is to bring the Mississippians together, because we have a like interest. And that's why I'm really excited about this disaster fund, because we have so many disasters, so many hurricanes, and we have so many tornadoes and so many floods. And, we had the Rolling Fork situation, which was horrible. And FEMA and all these, the Salvation Army and the Red Cross and MEMA, all these people work, and they work hard. And with the power companies and the utility companies. But, 30, 45 days after that, there's still people out there that basically don't have a house, don't have a home, don't have a car, can't buy groceries. And I know that Scott agrees. We've had so many people call. They'll call us and say, who do you donate to? We want, this thing is going to make the money go directly to the people. And that's what I'm happy about. Our goal is to serve the people of Mississippi, and this is a great addition to us. And we're so excited about joining Scott and MEC, who basically is the Business Leader Association in Mississippi. And if you're not a member of MEC, you need to join now. I'll give you a plug, Scott.
Yes, thank you.
It is.
Hey, Steve, what I would add to the conversation about
this is what MEC does.
Yeah,
they come up with stuff like this to help Mississippians.
What I would add to this discussion about SuperTalk Mississippi Media is, having come from newspapers and digital media companies, what I've observed about SuperTalk and Steve's vision is that they are breaking the mold. A lot of radio stations in the country, because they're cutting costs, are owned by venture capital funds. They're getting centralized and sort of have a national approach to how they look at radio. Steve has done just the opposite. When he says that he's committed to local, he really is committed to local. And so when you want to have an effort like we're going to be talking about coming up here soon, as it relates to this major Mississippi Disaster Relief Fund, what great partners between the Mississippi Economic Council, which is a statewide business organization with all the major players involved, and SuperTalk Mississippi Media, that has the ability to get into the fabric of this state to explain to people how they can be involved in the effort. It is a real success story. And the other point I would say is that SuperTalk Mississippi Media it's called media, not radio, because it is a multimedia company, as Steve pointed out. Radio is still king. Let's don't fool ourselves about that. At the end of the day, though, the shows are across multimedia formats. They have a thriving digital advertising arm of the company that's doing extremely well. It's just it's exciting to be a part of this company. But as Steve pointed out, they talk to every single county in the state, and that creates a tremendous footprint. Okay, coming over to Scott Waller from the Mississippi Economic Council. The Mississippi Economic Council, you guys continue to demonstrate why you're important to this state. Explain to people basically what the MEC is all about.
Sure. Thank you, Ricky. We are the State Chamber of Commerce. That is our role. We are a private, not-for-profit organization, and we're the parent company of MEC is funded solely by the businesses across the state that support us financially. We do not take any state or federal dollars to support the programs of MEC, and we really focus on a lot of different types of issues as it relates to growing the economy. As you know, I've had the privilege to be on with you a few times to talk about some of the legislative issues that we're working on as an organization, and on the other programs on the SuperTalk media network, and that's where we focus a lot of our attention. But as the chamber, we also have foundations that focus our attention on other programs, and this is where this falls in. This major disaster fund will actually fall within the MEC Swayze Foundation, and that is kind of how that's structured. So we're celebrating our 75th year, and it's really amazing the things that we continue to try to find to do.
That is really, really good, Scott Waller. Listen, when we come back on the other side, got a couple of more observations about the MEC I want to make, and then we'll talk to Steve and Scott specifically about this new fund that they've created. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We're joined today by Steve Davenport, who's the founder and chairman of SuperTalk Mississippi Media, and Scott Waller, who's the president and CEO of the Mississippi Economic Council. And soon we're going to be talking a little bit more about this Mississippi Major Disaster Relief Fund that's been formed in partnership between the MEC and SuperTalk Mississippi Media. Hey, real quick, Scott, before we get too far away from the MEC and what you do on a day-to-day basis, it's interesting to watch the MEC. MEC's been extremely strategically focused. So it's not just interested in being the MEC of the past, but to try to understand how you can take this collection of leaders and aim them in a way that makes Mississippi more prosperous, makes it better, makes us more focused on the kind of policy and legislation that can help our state grow. And I think about the members that you have, and I think it would be helpful for people to have an understanding of the kind of companies that are involved in MEC.
Well, it's a broad base of membership, from the service sector to the manufacturing sector. The gaming industry is very involved with what we do. Our utilities are extremely important to us because they're all focused on how do they make sure that they're continuing to grow the economy as well. Financial services is a big part of what. So when you think about our entire overall membership base, it hits all sectors, from very, very large business, the largest businesses in the state, to very small, in many cases, what was often referred to as the mom and pop Main Street type businesses. So we're very fortunate. We've got well over 1,000 members, over 11,000 folks within our database that have participated in some fashion over the last few years as part of these businesses that are members of MEC. But the thing that I think often goes on that we don't think about is the impact that these businesses have. They hire tens of thousands of Mississippians that go to work every day, care for their families, and our job is to make sure there's a business environment for these businesses to be successful and grow the jobs they have as we go forward. So that's really how you look at it from our organization perspective. Is we look at all sectors of the economy and figure out what is it that we need to be focused on that's going to impact the largest employer, which is located very close to where you are, to the smallest employer that may be in a small town that has maybe one or two or just maybe a single owner. So all of those things are important to us as we think about how do we grow our state and how do we grow our economy.
Yeah, I often talk about how coastal Mississippi is a real important economic engine. It's not the only economic engine, for sure, in Mississippi. Of course, with Ingalls and Chevron on one side and the blue chip industries that are part of Stennis on the other, and gaming and hospitality in between is so important. But I recently had Joe Max Higgins from the Golden Triangle Development Link on recently. He's been on the show a number of times. And one of the things he shared, Scott, was some of the micro data across the state of Mississippi proving that when you commit to economic development, especially the way that Governor Reeves has, and you have the successes that Governor Reeves is having, that when we work together, and it's a collaborative effort, you know that better than most, that when we work together focused on landing really big deals or working with MEC members to expand their operations so they can employ more people and make a bigger impact on Mississippi, when we do that and do it well, then it's going to lift the tide for everyone in this state. And the MEC really gets that, don't they?
Yeah, I mean that's where we put our attention, and it comes back to, Steve mentioned something earlier. We were talking that people understanding what all's in the state. You think about you pointed out two things. You have major industry in Jackson County on one side of the coast, and you have Stennis, which has some of the most high tech. The rocket testing that started there, that continues there, all of the things that go on. And then you get up into the Delta, which is very strongly agriculture driven, and then Northeast Mississippi and the advanced manufacturing. The diversity of the types of businesses that we have in Mississippi is really amazing. And the wonderful thing about what has happened most recently in economic development is we're now seeing major projects like the AWS project that is not a specific manufacturing project. It's more very much digital and those types of jobs that are very important to helping really diversify and grow our economy. So we're seeing a lot of that, and as we focus on what are the things we need to do, and we always try to make sure we've got a strategic action plan in place. Back in 2022, just a couple of years ago, we had updated our kind of building off the blueprint effort that had been ongoing with our Securing Mississippi's Future Vision for Economic Growth, and we're continuing to work on the goals and recommendations within that report. A lot of research went into it, a lot of listening sessions to people across the state to allow us to really focus our attention on the things that we think are going to move our state forward, grow our economy, build the workforce we need, and then ultimately attract and retain more young professionals as we go forward in our state is a big, big goal that we've got to really focus our attention on as well.
And I know just from a matter of fact, from staying very close to this, that it sounds good what you said, but it also happens to be true. And it's very, very important in our state. It's our key to success going forward. It's how Mississippi is not last when it comes to things like education and other factors, is leading in economic development. But it takes a lot of focus, a lot of work in the trenches, and MEC is a perfect organization to help us, help be a partner with our state in efforts like that. So as we think about SuperTalk Mississippi Media, as you heard, this ability to get to all 82 counties and this multimedia footprint and the ability to communicate in very substantial ways, not only to people with needs, but for people who may have the funds that could help an effort like this, combined with an MEC that has the ability to create partnerships and draw major employers, smaller employers, a large number of diverse businesses together focused on helping to create the ability to fill gaps. You can understand why this marriage between these two organizations is important when we talk about Mississippi Major Disaster Relief Fund. Can't have enough of these, but this seems sort of the perfect mix. Don't you feel that way, Scott?
I do, and I will tell you, when we started looking at this, we have a national organization that I participate in, and we have a saying that we have the best R&D program in the country, the best rip-off and duplicate program that exists. And so this was something that we had seen done in another state where they had actually partnered with a sports talk show. And I got to thinking about what they accomplished, and I realized SuperTalk Mississippi Media, we can take this and put this thing on steroids, and not just it because of the variety of programming on the talk stations, the number of music stations, the number of affiliates that carry the news. I mean, Steve mentioned, you said all 82 counties. I like to think of it, it covers every inch of Mississippi with what SuperTalk Mississippi Media does. So when I approached him about creating this fund and partnering, I was very excited that it wasn't a really hard sell. And he immediately said, we're in, we'll make this work. We'll do it at no cost. I said, MEC is waiving all of its administrative fees. So as many dollars as we can gets to the people that are impacted by these unfortunate disasters. And we wanted to get this started. The idea for getting it started now was, you always heard the old saying of prepare for the worst and pray for the best. We wanted to be prepared, and we wanted to put this in place, and ideally put it in place and pray we never have to use it. But we know in Mississippi that's not going to be the case. So to have a partner like SuperTalk Mississippi Media is so important to get the word out about how people can give. And the fact that we're able to do this in a way where it's structured the dollars are going to go into the local communities to help fill those gaps that those other organizations that do such a tremendous job with the Salvation Army, Red Cross, and others. But every person needs to have a way of helping, and I think this gives us that opportunity. And we are so fortunate to have a partner like SuperTalk Mississippi Media to help us talk about this fund, promote this fund, and then ultimately, as we begin to look for ways to help those impacted, be there by our side to do that as well. So it's really I think an opportunity to make a huge difference at a time when our citizens are going to need it the most.
Hey, listen, you talk about stealing ideas. I had the opportunity early in my career for the corporation that owned the Sun Herald to be a leader in an effort, a re-engineering effort of our company. And one of the teams I led was the best practice team. And my thought about that is, unless you're innovating some new thing, there's a good possibility that whatever it is you're wanting to do, somebody's already done it, and they've done it extraordinarily well. And find the best practices and implement them. And what a great best practice to implement in Mississippi, a fund like this with a partnership like you and I are talking about. When we come back on the other side, we'll talk a little bit about how the mechanism is going to work. But, whether it be housing assistance or food donations, household items, scholarships for students that are impacted by disasters, or any number of other needs that we find are still out there until all of us recover, really none of us recover. That's what this is about, filling those kind of gaps. We'll see you back here after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We're joined today by my friend Steve Davenport, who's the founder and chief executive officer for SuperTalk Mississippi Media, and Scott Waller, who's head of the Mississippi Economic Council. And we're talking about this Mississippi Major Disaster Relief Fund that they have formed. Scott, we'll come back over to you for a second and lay some of the groundwork. But I've had the opportunity after Hurricane Katrina, working with Haley Barbour to form the Governor's Commission. It can cost a lot of money to administer in this case, I'm assuming it's a 501(c)(3). If it's not, you can correct me on that. And we went and raised a couple $1 million in order to help us in that effort, so that the money that we ultimately could raise could go directly to helping us with the recovery effort. Same thing in Alabama when I was involved in the recovery effort after the oil spill. But administrative costs can be tremendous, and to have a fund where you're minimizing the amount of money that goes to the expense of administering the fund and lets as much of the dollars go to the people who need them, that's really the goal at the end of the day, isn't it?
It really is, and because we have two foundations that are up underneath our umbrella here at MEC. It's the Swayze Foundation that is going to oversee this fund, and also our Propel Education Forum of Mississippi, which is focused on education and workforce development issues. So fortunately, because the foundations are already in place, all of those things are handled and done, and we're able to administer that. So that's what helps us keep our costs very, very minimal on the end that we're looking at. So when I went down and we sat down with Steve and Kim and discussed this, and like I said, we felt like this was a way to do this, that gets more money into the community. So, I mean, and Steve can tell you probably from his perspective why he sees this as so important. But again, I think it comes back to the partnership that we have with what SuperTalk does. Yeah.
Steve, what would you add to that?
Well, Ricky, I'd just say that, as you well know, that we do a fundraiser for the Palmer Home, and it has been very successful for us. We've raised millions of dollars for them. But I think what this fund's going to do, it's going to inform people where they can go and where they can help Mississippians during this disaster. Because you well know that one great thing about Mississippians is they don't mind reaching their pockets and helping other people in Mississippi when they're in a disaster. They did it in Katrina. They did it way back. I remember Camille, and of course I was there, and Camille probably the scaredest I've ever been in my life. But I think it really reaches to the heart of Mississippians, and that's important. And it excites my employees. I cannot tell you how excited that the president of our company, Kim Dillon, is that we're going to do this, because it shows to Mississippians that we can get involved. with the community and with the state chamber, MEC, and help Mississippians. And that's what this is about. We're trying to help Mississippians during a disaster. And, with our wide range of media outlets now, Ricky, we just did the run on the streaming, which it amazes me trying to figure out what a download is and not a download. But I mean, like, for example, there's one podcast that we do. They had 481,000 people last month. Well, and they're different people. So you got a shot to get 481,000 people. And we're going to put it on every platform we got. And that's a sports show. It's a Thunder and Lightning, but we're going to put it on every entity that we own. And because we want this thing to succeed. And I know with our partnership with MEC, it will be a great success for the citizens of Mississippi during the disaster times.
You made that point, and I remember back as far as I can remember that when national studies were done about a per capita giving, Mississippi was always like sometimes number one, but usually in the top 3 or 4 in the nation in giving. A state that's had its challenges, typically seen as a poor state, that does not matter when it comes to helping our neighbor. That's one of the beautiful things about this state. Steve, the other point about giving and the way that you're approaching it, I remember well having this conversation with my employees at the Sun Herald, especially after Katrina, but the extent at which you're involved in the community, and this will get you so connected back into the community in ways that maybe we can't even fully appreciate. It gives you the chance to understand where the needs are and how we can, beyond just helping promote the fund, but also really zero in on some of these needs in a way that says, hey, we need to take this issue up and we need to address this issue. I think it's going to be great for the company to be connected in that way. And, coming back to you, Scott, when you think about the per capita given of Mississippians and that we can have an opportunity to tap into that in a way that can help this fund, that's got to excite you.
Well, it does, and I think that's what really started this. And again, I'm not taking away from anything that any of the other organizations do, because they do a tremendous job, and we have to have those. But we sat down when we started this process, and I give Steve full credit for this. He said, let's sit down and talk with the Secretary of State, Michael Watson, who his office oversees all charitable giving. We got everything in order. We met with him. He actually was with us when we made the original announcement. His office then followed up with me and said, okay, we got to do X, Y, Z. All of the T's have been crossed, the I's have been dotted for this fund to begin collecting dollars when the time comes. That time may be right now. We don't know what today is going to bring as this storm moves up our state. But when the time is ready, we'll be ready to activate and move forward. And then as that happens, what the next thing we will do is we will have a committee that will take a look at what are the biggest needs, who are the local entities that we can provide grants to, whether, as it says, whether it's housing, whether it's food, whether it's household items. One of the things that my friends in Kentucky, when they started this, they did this back during the flooding that happened a few years ago. Again, we're filling gaps. Is they provided some scholarship dollars for students who were impacted by that we're going to have to drop out of their educational process. So we have so many things that we can do, but we want to work with the local communities that are impacted to make sure what we are doing has the biggest possible impact as we go forward. So again, we feel like it's going to be done the right way. It's going to be an opportunity for people to give, knowing that we're using the dollars in the best way possible. But ultimately, one of the things that the Secretary said, and I've had a couple of our major members say, is that when these things happen, a lot of particularly out-of-state corporations that have a presence in the state of Mississippi, they immediately want to help, but they don't always know where to go. And this is that opportunity for them to say, okay, we're a member of MEC. We're very involved in MEC. We know that this is going to be operated properly. This is where we're going to place these dollars. And then they can say, we won't, like, just use the tornadoes from the spring. There was a company that made a donation and wanted it divided out. Well, we can make sure that happens. But the other thing that you add to this, and it gets back to what you just said, with the credibility that SuperTalk Mississippi Media brings to this and how they can help promote it. And more importantly, through their news organization, have an understanding of what's happening in the communities that are impacted that I will never understand because I'm here, they're there. So it's those types of things that will help us get a better understanding of how we use these funds the best way. And I just think it's a great partnership. And I'm very excited about what this is going to be, not just the next time we have it, whether that's right now or in the future, but long term, having this in place to be prepared to meet the needs of Mississippians when those needs arise.
Hey, so let me emphasize what you just said real quick. In my previous employment, I had a company, but in two cases, one company, a public company stationed in San Jose, California, and the other privately owned company stationed in New York. And in similar scenarios, I was faced with disasters, whatever they might be, Katrina, oil recovery, whatever. And the corporations wanted to give money. And in both cases, whether it be the public company or the private company, in cases where there was a fund established already, it just created an easy way to be able to direct that money, and then it could be distributed instead of having to create something. It's very similar to the conversation I had with the Gulf Coast Community Foundation recently. When you have a community fund already in place with all the requirements of a 501(c), all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, when you have that fund ready, it makes for it so much easier for you to be able to steer out-of-state money into that fund and redirect it in that way. This is what you'll do with this, and I think it's just ready-made for that. Steve, did you want to add something to that?
No, yeah, Rick, the only thing I want to say is, we hope we never have to use a fund, but as you well know, in Mississippi, very few years go by when we don't have some kind of disaster, either a flood or a tornado or a hurricane. And of course, we hope we don't have a disaster or hurricane coming in this fall, but it always happens. And I think having that fund in place is really going to help Mississippians.
Yeah. So listen, we're going to have a final segment together. When we come back on the other side, we'll just kind of wrap it all up. And I'm curious with Scott, what's the latest with the MEC? Maybe we can get a quick update from him. But we'll be back with Steve Davenport and Scott Waller when after this break. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. I'm just thrilled to have Citizen Bank as the studio sponsor of this show. It helps us create a stronger show. We've got great partners like Citizens Bank, so we're thrilled to have them. I have Steve Davenport, who's the founder and chairman of SuperTalk Mississippi Media, and Scott Waller, who is head of the Mississippi Economic Council here in Mississippi. And we've been talking about this new disaster relief fund that's been put together. Hey, Scott, and Steve, we'll come back to you and see if you want, whatever the closing statements you want to make about this. But let's get specific, Scott, about how people can donate, the website and what checks can be made payable to and so on.
If you go to msmec.com/MS Disaster Fund, it has the details. There's a button that's clicked right there that says click to donate. And when you click on that button, what it's going to do, it's going to give you some options. You can pay right there, make a donation online using a credit card, or it will give you the options of how to make a donation using making a write-in check and sending that in. So we're very fortunate that it would make it as easy as possible. The intent is when this fund is activated, there will be a button on our front page of the MEC website, which is real simple, just mec.ms. And I think that not to speak for Steve, but I think in our conversations, the plan was for them to do the same thing with their site. But when you go to that site, it will give you a button that you can click to make a donation immediately, or there's also information on how to mail a check into the MEC Swayze Foundation and the address and that. So we really have been working hard to make this as simple as possible for people to be able to give, and we feel like that this is a way to do it. And again, the promotions that we'll see it not only through when the time comes, and again, to Steve's point that he made at the end of the last segment, we hope that what we're going to be experiencing today is not one of those major events that we're going to really have to spend that type of effort on. But when the time comes, and we know it will, we want to make it as easy as possible and as simple. And I think that we'll also utilize social media and all other platforms out there to promote this in a way that people can know about it, make those donations, and feel comfortable that every penny will count. A $10 donation is as equally important as a very large donation, and they add up and they make a difference.
So you can go to the Mississippi Economic Development website. So just do a Economic Council, MEC, website and follow the appropriate links, or you can just do a search MS Disaster Fund, one word, MS Disaster Fund. That will also take you there. It'll give you more information. Steve, what would you like to say kind of in closing?
Well, let me say, our websites will also have a button they can go to, and it will take them directly to the fund at MEC. It will just be we'll just pass through. When they click on it, it will immediately go to MEC's website or the Disaster Fund website to get it done. Well, we're just excited about it. And as I said, we hope we don't have these disasters, but we know we're going to have them. And we're excited about partnering with MEC and helping the people of Mississippi. And I know, as I said earlier, our people are so excited. I know Kim Dillon, as I said earlier, the president will push it real hard like she does the Palmer Home. And I know we're going to have success in raising money and helping Mississippians.
Hey, what I would add to that is that the website for SuperTalk is supertalkmississippi.fm, supertalkmississippi.fm. I would encourage you to download the SuperTalk Mississippi app. But you can go there, and what you'll see when you go there is literally the ability to watch our programming on SuperTalk TV, listen to our program, listen to the music stations, and you see this wonderful news team that's gathering news from across the state. Imagine almost 50 radio stations that they are in concert with and gathering news and information. So they have people with tips all over the state. Their phones are ringing off the hook, and the team does a terrific job of capturing the news that's important to you every single day. And then on top of that, you get access to the sports programming of SuperTalk Mississippi. I think you should go to supertalk.fm and check it out. And then eventually there'll also be a button that gets you to the MS Disaster Fund as well. So anything else you want to say about that, Scott?
No, I greatly appreciate the partnership. I appreciate the time and effort that Steve and Kim and their team has put into making this happen. And I feel like that the ultimate goal is to help our citizens, and that is what we will be able to do.
Sounds good. Hey, Kyle, real quick, let me check in with you about time. We're getting close. Okay, well, a minute and 22 seconds. Listen, Steve Davenport and Scott Waller, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. And let me just close the day out by simply saying that, we've had this storm that's continuing to go up Mississippi. So if there's floods, tornadoes, impacts that come from this, we'll pray for every Mississippian that the impact is not great. For those of you that it is, you'll see once again why we call this a resilient state, the way that neighbors come out to help neighbors. And you'll see probably as well why a Mississippi Major Disaster Relief Fund is necessary. And I look forward to working with them to build this fund and make it really viable for future disasters. Okay, listen, have a great day. Again, I hope you stay dry and unimpacted, and especially pray for our farmers that are working hard to get their crops out. Hopefully this rain didn't affect them too badly. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.